You're listening to The Talent Sync. The Talent Sync is a talent board and job sync collaborative podcast production about anything and everything recruiting and hiring. Literally the kitchen sink on how all things in talent acquisition work together, should work together, and how sometimes they don't. Now it's time to sync up with your hosts, Kevin Grossman and Leah Daniels. Today's topic is about DE&I, Mindset Matters. Enjoy the podcast. Hello there, Leah. How are you doing this fine day?
I am well. How are you, Kevin? It is a Friday of a very long week over here. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it was a long week. It was. What is it like? We're almost halfway through the year.
No, I just talked to somebody the other day and I was like, are we really talking about November as if it's like right around the corner?
Dear egads. It is like totally, it's just amazing. And like our kids are your kids now out of school?
We're in school forever. We don't get out until the second to last week of June.
Oh, really? Wow.
Oh, yeah.
When do you start then? Do you start in September?
Yeah, just after Labor Day.
Labor Day. Okay, yeah. We switched that a couple of years ago, and now we end early and start early August.
Here in the great New England, we don't send kids to school in August because we don't have air conditioning in our school.
Oh, yeah, and it's like super sticky gross, right?
Yeah, so instead of cooking the kids in August, we cook them in June.
There you go. We cook them in June, where it's not as sticky yet. I used to work for a solution provider in the space a long time ago, People Fluent, actually, and I would go every month and a half, go spend a week out in Waltham.
Yeah, Waltham. Right on the 95 corridor.
And I remember later in the summer, oh man, it was super gross, super sticky gross.
But only for a minute. Like we don't do it for very long, but we really lean into having seasons here.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. Well, listen, Leah, we have an important topic today that we want to talk about. We want to talk about diversity and inclusion, specifically as it relates to recruiting and hiring in the workplace. And we want to be super clear up front. I guess it's kind of like our disclaimer. I mean, I do not claim to be a D&I expert by any stretch of the imagination. I do have a lot of data from our candidate experience benchmark research and just my own personal opinions and experience in the space. You're hearing us, but also another disclaimer for me, and then Leah, I'll let you say some things too. Yes, I'm a white male, of course, but I'm very much a supporter of diversity and inclusion initiatives throughout the world of work. So, Leah.
And I am a East Coast privileged white lady. Just putting it out there.
I'm on the leftist coast, so.
Yeah, you're on the other coast. But I think that, likewise, it's not just diversity and inclusion, it's belonging for me. All of these components do interplay. And, you and I were just chatting ahead of time, but the data has been out for a million years. Not really, but at least a few, from Forbes, from McKinsey, around. A couple of decades,
actually, from my own research, that I've seen.
There is lots of reasons to lean in towards a DE&I initiative in your business to make sure that you are making your workplace inclusive, and that will lead not only to just better organizations, but more profit, happier customers. And so, there's lots of good data behind that to support both, I think, what you and I feel, which is not necessarily measurable.
Well, and it's totally true. And I want to, handle it with a little bit of kid gloves, but it's unfortunate, I think, that we seem to be in a world that's experiencing a backlash against D&I initiatives, more in education than anything, but also potentially in the workplace too. But again, when I talk about the Candy Pulse surveys that we've been doing now and we're collecting again for June, so over 6 months now, and even for the past few years in our end of year recruiting focus surveys, all things related to what we capture and measure at Talent Board, diversity and inclusion is always very much in the top 5 initiatives, if not the top 3, that companies on the recruiting and hiring side say that they're focusing on and that they're providing resources and making investments in. And the past 6 months is no exception that it's definitely been in the top 3, along with candidate experience, which go hand in hand for the past 6 months in our data. So it's definitely something that is important to organizations. I mean, as individuals, right? It is about, for me too, about belonging and feeling like I am included here in this organization, and I'm represented. Now it's easy for me to say that being a white guy. And I was just joking with you before we started that I heard years ago a comedian state that he says that I hear all the time, why do we have African American History Month? Why do we have Pacific Islander History Month and Women's History Month? And his response was, well, we've had White Man's History Month for 400 years. So it's time to, let's celebrate other groups that make up this great nation of ours in America. And I did laugh the first time I heard that. So, but it's, it's true. And I think that everybody wants to feel like they're represented in the organizations I think that they work within. And if not, the data also shows, Leah, that individuals, whether they're female, people of color, if they're not represented in the groups where they work, their tenure doesn't last very long.
Yep. And it gets harder as you look at organizations and promotion paths, right? And this is probably part of our overarching conversation, but how you view the world as those promotion opportunities show up really gets interesting if you're in an organization which hasn't leaned towards promoting with this sense of awareness around gender and race and belonging for everyone. There's a long conversation I had with someone one day around why women say they support each other, but then when a lot of times the push comes to shove, they don't. And if you think about it from the perspective of promotions, when you have only 1 or 2 women at the top of an organization and you keep going layer after layer after layer, and they only have 1 or 2 spots in each promotion opportunity, women don't see the opportunity of 10 promotions available to them. They see 1 or 2. And now you're actually competing, right? So we've actually created an environment where it's hard to support each other if you're competing also for those positions. And I think that that's something that organizations really do have to take a hard look at, how those promotion opportunities end up playing out in real life, because especially at that first level, this is where we do the most damage. In that first level of hiring, that first level of promotion, if we are not making those opportunities equal, we are setting the organization up for failure from that point forward. You will never be able to fix this problem.
Right. And I would argue the misrepresentation and misconception that when you were attempting to make things equal for all groups, that you're making it not equal for the primary represented group that we've seen in a long time. And the data and research, that's just not true. Execution can be argued as how things are actually delivered and executed and implemented in an organization. But at the end of the day, it's not about displacing another group in exchange for elevating others that were always under the... Anyway.
It's interesting. The EEO, I think, does probably the best job of stating this very plainly, right? The outcomes matter. The outcomes matter. And so you have to look at it through the lens of the outcomes. What is happening on the outcome side? Are you, at the end of the day, when you hire people, are you interviewing and selecting a representative group of people for the community in which you operate in? And are you then equally promoting those people up through your organization? That's it. Outcomes matter. And I think what you're leaning towards, Kevin, is that something that might have been easier before is now equally as hard as it is for the rest of the groups, for a certain group of people. And that feels difficult.
Time for a Talent Sync break.
Hey everybody, Kevin Grossman here, president of Talent Board and the Candidate Experience Awards. Our 2023 Candidate Experience Benchmark Research Program will open in January and run through August 31st. To learn more on how your organization can participate, go to thetalentboard.org.
Break time's over. Now back to the Talent Sync.
It does. Yeah, it does. But that's what equality and equity, why they're so important, though, too. There's, again, a lot of misconception and around that. But something, though, at least on the front end of that, before we even get to the point of the final selection and the outcomes matter, which I totally agree with. And Keith Sonderling and team and everybody at the EOC, of course, that's what they live and breathe all the time and try to help companies adjust for, even if that means finding them, etc. But the thing that we find in our data and research, and it's only been the past 3 years that we have been asking as one of the demographic questions, race and ethnicity. For the longest time, we were only asking for gender and generation, what they would identify with. And a few other workplace demographics, but not race and ethnicity. It's only been the past 3 years that we've done that. And what we find, and this has been consistent since the first year that we started this, and even early returns are showing it again this year, because I think of a lot of the movement even pre-COVID, but especially what transpired in the summer of 2020 with the death of George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd, and all the scramble that we need to do a better job overall with D&I initiatives, that younger candidates, female, people of color, all have significantly higher positive and more fair candidate experiences in our data. They tell us through the data, because I think there is a lot more branding and recruitment marketing and put your money where your mouth is, investment in those resources and those initiatives. And this is really what we're trying to do. Again, outcomes matter, how we're trying to get there. And the candidates feel that. And when we see that in the data, and it's been, for the first year, we were like, wow, this is fascinating. I wasn't expecting that, but it does line up now, and it continues to line up. And again, this early returns for this year's data is showing the same thing. And again, we're not measuring what it's like to be an employee, but at least for the candidates, they feel like they are being marketed to at those organizations.
I do think that there is a really important piece in the representation part of the hiring process that companies that get it right really do an excellent job, which is creating interview groups that are representative to begin with. Because as the candidate, right, if you are, even if it's an organization that is fabulous and does all of the right things for inclusion and belonging once you're there, if your interview experience is that you are not represented in any of these people you're interviewing with, you actually are less likely to say yes to an opportunity, right? And so companies who really think carefully about every step of the process, not just the career site, because for a lot of jobs, people don't ever go to the career site. And so that's only one opportunity, but there's always an interaction with some humans, right? And that could be through your recruiter, that could be through your interview panel, your hiring managers, but making sure that you find representation in that process, I think is extraordinarily important.
It is. And the recruitment marketing content that's rated the highest in our data by women, people of color, and younger candidates. Younger meaning Gen Z, millennial. Company values is number one, which was true for all candidates in our data and research too, but diversity, inclusion, obviously. But then talking about seeing those people who, do I see myself in these organizations? Employee testimonials, why people want to work there. These are all important to all candidates, but they're super important to these groups that we have been, now we can isolate in our data. And before they even click apply, whatever that is.
Yeah. And I mean, this is the authentic piece, right? This is are you creating an authentic experience that I can relate to? Some of the most polished career sites, I think, actually do a disservice to their candidates, right? If it's so perfect, it's not real. And so making sure you have imagery of real employees and testimonials of real employees that are not rehearsed. I mean, they can be a little rehearsed, but don't make them so perfect that it feels like it's an actor doing it, right? You really do want that piece where it's interesting. The other thing I really like are organizations, I think Progressive is one of them, that simply put the information out there. Transparency is a huge part of this.
Yes, very much so.
If it's a story without data, then it's not real.
Right. No, transparency is always a big part. It's important in all the research that we capture for all candidates of all shapes, sizes, colors. It doesn't matter, but it's especially important to those disparate groups that have historically been underserved in the workplace, and that's the reality. And what I hope for, because I mean, right now we're recording this. It's the middle of June. Juneteenth is coming up next week, which we are celebrating as Talent Board as a holiday, and but it's not something, to be perfectly frank, it's not something that I had prior to, even just in the past couple of years. I didn't even know a lot about Juneteenth, to be honest, right? But now I understand about the emancipation of slaves. And I understand the context, and I do celebrate that as a national holiday. And so we will take that off. It's also Pride Month.
Yep, and we celebrate that as well.
Yeah, and we do as a family, and we went to our local Pride Parade, and we support the community, LGBTQ community, and and that's, again, a disclaimer, as we already pointed out, I'm on the West Coast, Leah's on the East Coast. But again, I think that we have seen time and again, and by the way, I'm getting even a lot more queries of companies that are participating in our research too. They really, really want to be able to isolate and understand that they are providing a quality candidate experience for all facets of candidates, period. And so even though the data is telling us that they want to know more and more and be able to do that. And I think that, again, it's good business at the end of the day, right?
But I think it's something really important, right? That, you and I were talking about this a little bit as a feeling, but really the rubber meets the road on the data. And so I think the companies that really start to look at the data and say, how are we actually doing? What are we doing? What activities are leading to the outcomes that we're after versus, are we seeing outcomes that we don't think are representative of our goals as a business? And can we make those changes? And I think you can't do that without data and metrics. And so one of the things that I've seen recently sitting in the DE&I initiatives are data analysts, right? Some of these recruitment operations folks where part of their charter is the data and understanding the what is happening, right? What is the pool of people looking like as a group that we're attracting? How and what technologies are we using? Are they biased? This is a big thing with the new New York law, right? Are our technologies anti-bias or at least not creating bias? Are we creating an environment where the number of people we get offers to, we expect to say yes, do say yes, or are we surprised by some of the no's that we're getting? What's causing that, understanding what the data says, and then following that all the way through to our first promotions and our future retention, right? And what's happening there? What's the data say? If we don't have an employee resource group, you might find that is actually a gap in your business causing you to have a retention problem. So there's so much in all of this that's important from a feeling perspective and how you view the world, but the data is available to these businesses. You've got to lean into it. You've got to start to really understand what activities are creating good and positive outcomes and which ones are actually hurting your initiatives.
And it has to be supported by leadership.
Oh, 100%.
Across the board, because there's, I time and again, anecdotally, and there's also, I know documentation of this too, but, you hear of there are individuals hired to be chief diversity officers and that they struggle in their roles. They struggle in their roles. They're not getting the support. Unfunded. They're not getting the support from leadership. I don't want to use the word token, but I just said it out loud. It's kind of like, unfortunately, it's like, look here. It's the numbers game, the check box, right? We have a chief diversity officer, but the culture is not supportive.
It's actually a widespread problem in this initiative. It has been for a long time, right? I think and this might actually ruffle feathers.
We're going to ruffle just a couple of feathers.
Oh, God. Do not publish my address. So the EEO is an organization that is really dedicated to this mission. And they have a series of websites that say if you're looking to do a better job of hiring for diversity, you need to be publishing your opportunities to all these different kinds of websites. And there's a whole list of them. But you know what? At the end of the day, the majority of diversity hires come from the main job boards and referrals. So it's interesting is that the data isn't always the same thing as the rules, which is a whole nother challenge that exists. Anytime there are a set of rules, they tend to lag behind reality. And companies who are really paying attention will know that their efforts cannot be just a set of checkboxes or a set of rules they need to follow. You really, again, I'm a little bit of a data nerd today, but you really got to follow the data. And the data says
super important.
Right? Like if you're going to look for these folks. The other piece that I think is so interesting is around how you hire and what you're thinking about, right? Are you hiring for skill? Are you hiring for mindset? Are you hiring for diversity of experience and perspective? What are your business's values in your hiring process? And if you can articulate those, that can really be an effective way to make sure you're embedding in the process how you hire folks, right? So I keep using this word process, but my friend Jackie Clayton says, take the word process and get rid of it and use the word systems instead. Try it for a week. And when you do that, you'll notice that sometimes it's a systemic problem in your business as opposed to a process problem. Because a process problem, you can rewrite the process and do something different.
Yeah, and it's right. And that relates to, in our research report from last year, we were also referenced an HBR article about to avoid DEI DE&I backlash focus on changing systems, not people. And that's a struggle right now, right? We see a lot of, again, it's part of the backlash, unfortunately, that is going on, is that everybody is making it about people, but it is more about systems. So I like that. I didn't actually have heard Jackie say that before. I should do that myself. Use system instead of process.
Yeah, she says take it out just try it for a week. Just try it on. It's like clothing. Just give it a week. See how it feels. It'll make you think about what you're doing a little bit different. Because again, process is a set of rules. You write it down. Systems are much more embedded in the organization.
Time for a Talent Sync break.
Hi, Talent Sync listeners. I just wanted to share a bit about JobSync with you all. JobSync helps companies get more quality candidates out of their job board advertising and automates a variety of manual recruitment tasks by solving for the very low conversion rate challenges most companies experience on their career site. JobSync integrates your entire application, including all of your questions, directly into the various job boards' quick apply processes, providing you with fully completed applications directly into your ATS and resulting in 2 to 5 times more candidates while dropping your cost per application by half. This helps return up to 10 hours a week back into your recruiter's time through custom automations that are based on your business-specific recruiting processes. JobSync works with most major ATSs like Workday, SuccessFactors, and Taleo, CRMs, programmatic platforms, and job boards like Indeed and Zip. You can check out jobsync.com to learn more.
Break time's over. Now back to the Talent Sync.
And historically be rife with bias that no matter how much your best intentions are about being more inclusive in hiring, if those systems aren't changed or updated, right, then it is kind of a catch-22.
One of my other favorite things of Jackie, she's being featured right now, she doesn't even know, is how she thinks about the world through the lens of neurodiversity and some of our process and our systems around that, and the simple things you can do that make everybody's life better, right? Accepting that interviews are not representative of jobs. In fact, they're kind of an unusual and awkward event in the process or the system. And can we do simple things like tell people what we're going to ask ahead of time?
Yeah. Exactly.
When you take all of this and you sort of look at this and you say, okay, what do we do with this? Where do we go from here? Part of it is recognizing that DE&I is not a individual group of people. It's actually a very large percentage of people in the United States. In fact, maybe everybody, really. And how do you manage through your process through that, right? You've got the folks who have come from disadvantaged backgrounds. That might not just be because of their race or their gender. It just may be that they actually grew up with a single parent, right? They may not have had the luxury of a college education. They may not. There's lots of humans in our world, and making sure that the way we view our business is collaborative and inclusive, and that people who we want to belong also want to be part of the story and the journey of the business. And so when you think about your business not as human resources, I always hated the U.S. government calls people in the military GIs, government issue. It's such a dehumanizing term. We talk about resources. Humans are resources. But when you think about our people as humans and people with families, right? I always talk about my business and how many families my business supports. When you think about this, people have lives and they have histories and they come with all of their preconceived notions and PTSD and all of these things, and all of that's okay. All of it's okay, right? Like that's okay. And so how do we then make everything that this person brings to the table okay because of the things we need from our business to pull out of them? How do we get them their skills and their ideas and their creativity and their intelligence and their communication skills or whatever it is that they bring to the table? How do we get the most out of those folks and have them want to be part of it? And part of it is supporting the whole human, right? It's just about that. Make it about the entire human.
And what relates to that, because we are talking about a broader swath of individuals from all sorts of backgrounds, including those that are neurodiverse. And our own oldest daughter had some developmental delays when she was very young, and with the resources that she had through the years and some of the accommodations that she's had, she thrives in school, extremely thrives. And I think it's at one point, what I hope is that one of these days when she starts working and has a job, and that, you know, next year she might be paid as like a camp counselor, but in the workplace years from now as an adult, that, you know, the skills and experience that she can bring and the potential that she can bring to an organization, that she will be allowed to thrive and have that support that she's been able to have, and to draw that out. And at the end of the day, it affects all businesses' bottom lines, because it is, at the end of the day, it is about business. And I like how you're saying, as a business, you're supporting the families that are working there, but they're helping the business thrive because you are supporting them in the sense of their own growth, and regardless of background. And I think that really, that's kind of the thing, is that sometimes that we're all on this grand universal spectrum on some level. All of us are, and some folks need more support than others, but we can all be very productive human beings in the in the world of work. And I think organizations that are the ones that are successful and thrive understand this and support those individuals regardless of their shape, size, color, background.
Yeah, absolutely. And that moment where you realize that you have humans and they have lives and families, and when you treat them as humans and you expect them to treat each other as humans, it's a transformative sort of point of view.
Yeah.
And I really do think that at the core of DE&I and belonging, and I love the belonging component, is that when you can accept that component, that belonging piece, that each human is a human with a family and a life, and you will have different ups and downs. Humans have other parts to their lives. They have children, and they have illness, and they have parents and siblings and so forth, right? All these things that happen. They buy houses and buy cars, and they have big life events. All of these things are part of your people. And if your expectation is that you bring your whole self, and you know, some days you do only get 80% out of one of your people, but you know, another day you might get 150% out of them. And it kind of all comes out in the wash because you've treated them as a whole person. And I think that for me, the core of all of this starts there. And then recognizing that you do better with people who can see the world through multiple lenses. I mean, personally, I prefer in my community and people that support my organization, I like thinkers and I like people who are of a growth mindset. I love the book Mindset as a hiring book. It's, you know, just such a great way to think about how you can be a contributor to an organization in a way you can bring your whole self, and your background doesn't matter.
Yeah. Listen, Leah, I'll be the first to admit I like-minded people to me. I mean, I do like-minded people to me, but I also like to be stretched. I also like to be challenged, and not in a visceral negative, I want to destroy you way, in a way like, I think here's another side to this. Why don't you look at the problem this way? And I solicit that from my small team all the time for the work that we do at Talent Board. I constantly am like, you know what? I want that input. I want somebody to tell me, look at it in a different way, please, because sometimes we do get stuck. And I think that's another thing that, diverse groups of individuals in the workplace can help do.
There's an element, I think, that ties all of this to, which is, last and most importantly, organizations that encourage positive intention. I think that anyone who looks at their colleagues and says their intentions are always positive and then go from there, versus I assume you're wrong and I'm out to, right? Like, we all pick up our pitchforks. Like, that's the problem of many organizations, right? So if you can come from that collaborative point of view, the good intentions, that everybody is trying to do their best and row in the right direction, it really does change the conversation and makes for a more inclusive workforce.
Totally.
So.
Well, I think that was a good way to wrap it up. I kind of felt like this was a stretch podcast for me, right? Because I mean, I know what I feel. I know the research I've done, but I'm very much an ally to lots of different groups, but it is also, it's a stress for me. So this was a good cathartic episode, Leah. There you go.
I'm glad. I enjoyed it, as always. I love seeing you and getting our time together.
Good time. So listen, great talking with you, Leah. Again, as always, folks, get Talent Synced, listen to our podcast, subscribe, share, and hope that you enjoy the conversations that we have. And there will be more soon. Thank you for listening to the Talent Sync podcast, a Talent Board and Job Sync collaborative podcast production. More episodes soon.